This series is a mission to uncover the true depth of the fashion industry and the huge variety of roles that go towards sending clothes down the catwalk season after season. With your guidance, I'll be talking to people from all disciplines and levels of the industry to find out what's in store for fashion's future. Okay, so we spoke to Google and asked them to give us a compendium of information on what people are most inquisitive about in fashion. The most Googled career questions. It's how do you become a fashion designer? How fashion bloggers make money? How do fashion bloggers make money? Are fashion designers artists? Are fashion designers rich? No. How do you become a buyer? How do you get a career in fashion journalism? How to get a job at Vogue? Hey! It's not that random, it's quite specific. So maybe everyone that likes fashion is very serious and pragmatic, like me. When I was at school, I wanted to be a fashion journalist, and in Hampshire, I went to the careers advisor, and when I was like 14 or however old you have to be, and I said, I'd like to be this, please, and they were like, oh, we don't know. It's interesting to discover that it hasn't changed much since I was floundering as a teenager, wanting to know how I could become a fashion journalist, that still hasn't been answered, even though there's a huge database on the internet now that you'd have thought you could harness, but really it's still remained this elusive, thing that's perceived as haughty and untouchable. I'm surprised that that's still the case. These types of questions are probably most pertinent to the thousands of students graduating in fashion and textiles every year in the UK. Central St Martin's School of Art is home to one of the most prestigious fashion courses in the world. Famous for nurturing extraordinary creative talent, alumni include Stella McCartney, John Galliano and Alexander McQueen. A couple of people. Each year, around 100 students graduate from their BA and MA courses, heading out into the big bad world to make their mark on the fashion industry of the future. Willie Walters is the fashion programme director.
And so how long has it been that you could actually study fashion? Do you know when that emerged as something that you could actually go to school for?
Well, that's really interesting because I know St Martin's fashion started in 1939 with a woman called Muriel Pemberton. She saw a need for young people to sketch fashion, to go to the Paris shows, to disseminate fashion, and then to start creating and designing. The LCC wouldn't allow them to do that at first, so they had to hide their machines under the table so the inspectors came around, and gradually they started constructing garments.
Did you study here?
I did, yes, and that's exactly my path. When I was studying fashion, nobody really thought about what you would do afterwards.
Right.
It was much more limited. Certainly during the 70s and the 80s, being perceived as a designer was not considered very serious.
Right.
I think things changed a lot in the 90s, but I can remember applying for a driving insurance and calling up a company, and they said, well, what's your occupation? And I went, oh, I'm a fashion designer. But we don't teach you fashion designers. Oh, no.
Why?
Well, obviously we were not sober citizens.
Oh,
I think they thought we'd be driving along with one hand with a bottle of champagne,
It's like ab fab, basically.
Exactly,
yeah.
Totally ab fab. That's exactly what the conception was.
Despite the course having more of a fine art approach, the students are under increasing pressure to leave the college with the skills demanded by the contemporary fashion industry. Having just got their results 1 week earlier, Willie's MA students are preparing to fly the nest.
So, have you just graduated?
We are graduating.
Yeah. Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
You get to wear the weird hat?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
We don't know what to wear underneath, though. None of us.
What about a silver unitard?
I don't think my parents would love that.
Think about it.
Chris studies fashion communication, Evan women's wear, and Eleanor design and marketing.
What was your perception of the fashion industry before you were ensconced in this world?
I completely didn't understand how many jobs there are in the things that you don't see, which is actually most of the fashion industry.
Okay.
I realised that a lot on my placement year, how many people work in production, how many people work, and their job is to make sure that the buttons get flown from Italy for the right day. But no one ever really mentions that side of things. People say everyone's going to be really mean, but actually I don't think that's true.
When I was 18, I read The Devil Wears Prada just before the film came out.
Yeah.
And then I actually read it, having worked in magazines for like 4 years. I couldn't finish it reading it because I was like, oh my God, why is she complaining so much? Like, what's wrong with her? I've had to do all of that kind of stuff, and I just got on with it and not complained about it. And I have to say, that film, I do kind of love it because it's cult, but that has a kind of bit of a lot to answer for, I think.
How do you feel about the government sort of removing funding from helping people do this type of course?
I mean, it's not impossible, but it does make it so difficult.
Yeah.
Especially when you come from a background where, you know, you don't necessarily have money behind you. It does make it very difficult.
You have to buy everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how much does a collection cost to produce at the end of the year?
I don't even want to work it out.
One of my friends, and she does knitwear, and it was somewhere between £4,500 we reckon.
Are you nervous at all about life after this?
I mean, it's really hard. I think the best way to work is going into one of these collectives where there's different people who actually are sort of specialised in certain areas. So you'll have someone who is amazing at knitwear, someone who's a really, really good pattern cutter, and then somebody who's maybe a bit more into the business, like the communication side of stuff. I mean, most labels have, you know, someone who's the face of it, and then there's this sort of right-hand man or woman.
Yeah, definitely.
Like Christopher Kane and his sister.
Yeah.
Like, she does all of his kind of branding and stuff. And I think that the importance of having a team around you and having a collective team means that there's more people to bounce our ideas around.
Yeah.
And then there's also more people to be able to put money into it together, because you have autumn, winter, spring, summer collection. You also have resort and pre-fall, and that means that these smaller labels who don't have enough money to put presentations and shows together have to produce 4 labels every single year. And there's a kind of a move towards doing presentations.
Like Molly Goddard?
Yeah, like Molly Goddard, yeah. Presentations, and being more interesting with your presentation, because there's a lot less pressure. You don't have to have a lot more people involved in that respect.
Yeah.
And so there's less money involved, and you can kind of have people come and go.
So why do they even bother having catwalk shows?
Well, I mean, that's the question. How important nowadays are catwalk shows? Because
really important for the ego. Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, though. It's the elitist, I think.
Just want to be front row. It's very important.
A recent student of CSM, Molly Goddard, is a new den designer who is one of the most notable proponents of the new approach to presentation, a tactic that just won her a coveted installation at London's Dover Street Market, a place I have recently banned myself from.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
That's great.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. This is very nice.
It's a bit of a mess.
So this is your autumn-winter 15
So
presentation?
this was at Somerset House.
Okay.
And it was in the most perfect space because it was really kind of grand but dilapidated. My mum, Sarah Edwards, did all the set design. So we just filled the walls with drawings and had easels that we borrowed from the RA, I think, and paints everywhere. And then George turned up and took off his robe and sat in the middle, and all the girls drew. And then we had another room off to the side where there's a still life and all the girls did drawings. And they just switched around and drew for 2 hours and everyone watched.
Molly's first show was even more off the cuff. She simply threw a party in her town hall and got all her friends to wear the dresses. But the uniqueness of the display was enough to catch the attention of the fashion press.
It was fun because there was no pressure. I didn't know that anyone would turn up. I just thought my friends might turn up. I never thought of buyers. I didn't really know that buyers existed like that. They came and then you had like a meeting and then you did a showroom. I didn't really know that. So yeah, that was all a bit of a shock when people then wanted to buy it. And then we just had to produce it. And then as we started producing it, more and more people ordered. Because I think when Dover Street order, people kind of take notice.
Yeah.
Of that.
So obviously here you have a team of people that are actually physically making all your garments. But is that hard to find in Britain at the moment? Like, are there not many people with that skill set?
Yeah, I think it's very hard. Phoebe and Rosie, who are seamstresses, actually did costume. And I think, like, you learn so much more doing something like costume than fashion.
Really?
So I'm really, like, I didn't realise that until I kind of met Phoebe, but I think like just making is such a good job because it is creative. Like we always discuss like there's things I don't know what I'm doing and Phoebe knows a better way to finish it.
So for the next time you have to show, do you think you'll keep doing unique presentations or are you going to have a catwalk show?
I think next time will be another similar thing, like we're thinking of kind of like a vegetable show.
A vegetable show?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
like a horticultural show, I think.
Okay. Thank you so much for watching episode 2. There's a third part. Subscribe to British Vogue YouTube channel and you can see it. Or you can make it up in your head, but it wouldn't be as factually correct. Next, I learn how to control people's minds at London College of Fashion's newest course. And I talk boobs with the fashion oracle that is Karen Franklin.